Portugal versus DR Congo. Look, there's a reason Portugal walked into this tournament as one of the genuine favorites to lift the whole thing, and it goes way beyond the man wearing the armband. This is a squad that won the Nations League just 12 months ago, beating Spain on penalties in Munich after a 2-2 thriller, and that kind of pedigree doesn't just vanish when you cross the Atlantic. Roberto Martinez has assembled what might be the deepest midfield at the entire World Cup, with Vitinha and João Neves forming a PSG-trained engine room that controls tempo the way a conductor controls an orchestra, and those two have spent the last club season winning everything in Paris together. That chemistry isn't manufactured in a training camp, it's built over hundreds of minutes of shared instinct. DR Congo, returning to the World Cup stage for the first time in 52 years, are a feel-good story, absolutely, but feel-good stories and covering spreads don't always coexist. The Leopards' path here tells you something important about the margins they've been living on. They needed a penalty shootout to get past Nigeria and then extra time to beat Jamaica 1-0 in the Intercontinental Playoff. Their last 3 matches in regulation time all ended without a win. And if you really want to zoom out, consider that DR Congo hasn't scored a single World Cup goal in their history, losing all 3 group matches in 1974 as Zaire by a combined 14-0. Now obviously that was a completely different era and a completely different squad, but the psychological weight of never having tasted World Cup success is real, especially when you're staring across the pitch at Cristiano Ronaldo playing in his record 6th tournament. Ronaldo has scored in 3 of his 4 career World Cup matches against KF opponents, with goals against Ghana in 2014, Morocco in 2018, and Ghana again in 2022. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern, and patterns matter in these spots. Portugal's form line reads 7 wins in their last 10 matches, including a 9-1 demolition of Armenia in qualifying and clean 2-0 road victory over the United States in a pre-tournament friendly. Even the draw against Mexico felt controlled. Meanwhile, DR Congo's head coach Sébastien Desabre is likely deploying a 5-at-the-back formation, and when a team sets up that defensively from the opening whistle, it's basically an admission that they expect to spend long stretches without the ball. Portugal's FIFA ranking sits at 6th in the world, DR Congo's at 56th, a 50-place chasm that represents years of development, infrastructure, and top-level competitive experience. Ruben Dias is confirmed out for this opener, and yes, that matters, but Gonçalo Inácio has started alongside him at the back in recent Portugal camps, and this squad has 8 defenders on the roster precisely because Martinez planned for depth. Portugal should create enough to win this match convincingly, and when a team that's conceded an average of just 0.6 goals per game across its last 5 outings meets an opponent that's failed to score in regulation in its last 2 competitive fixtures, the margin tends to compound. As our first pick for this matchup, the Portugal minus 1.5 spread is our full game side pick. Portugal has put exactly 2 goals on the board in 3 consecutive matches heading into this opener, beating Chile 2-1, beating the United States 2-0, and beating Nigeria 2-1. That kind of consistency isn't random, it's a reflection of a team that generates chances with regularity, but also manages game states without chasing unnecessary risk. Here's the thing though, the floor for Portugal's attacking output is already sitting at 2, and the ceiling could be much higher against an opponent whose defensive personnel raise some real questions at this level. Bruno Fernandes arrives in Houston carrying a Premier League record 21 assists this past season with Manchester United, the most any player has ever registered in a single campaign, surpassing both Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne. He was named PL Player of the Season and won the FWA Footballer of the Year award. That kind of creative force running the final third means Portugal doesn't rely on one avenue to goal. Fernandes can thread a pass through channels, deliver set pieces with surgical precision, or finish himself. Off the bench, Martinez can introduce Rafael Leao's pace, João Felix's invention, or Gonçalo Ramos as a true number 9 if the game calls for a different look. That bench alone would be a competitive starting lineup for most nations at this tournament. Now flip it around, DR Congo will rely heavily on Yoane Wissa to lead the counterattack, but Wissa's had a difficult campaign at Newcastle, managing just 4 Premier League starts and 1 goal all season. Cédric Bakambu, the 35-year-old veteran striker from Real Betis, managed a single goal across 8 La Liga appearances this year. Neither of those forwards is walking in on a wave of form or confidence, and that lack of sharpness tends to show up against elite defensive structure. But here's what makes the total interesting. DR Congo aren't going to park the bus for 90 straight minutes without ever venturing forward. They have speed through the wingback positions, with Arthur Masuaku on the left and Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the right, and Desabre will want to show his country that this team belongs on the world stage. A group that includes Colombia and Uzbekistan means DR Congo can't afford to simply lose respectably and move on. They'll need to show some attacking intent at some point. NRG Stadium's retractable roof will almost certainly be closed given the ongoing Houston flood watch and rain forecast, creating a climate-controlled environment where conditions won't slow the pace of play. Germany scored 7 in this exact venue against Curacao just 3 days ago, so the setting isn't exactly stingy. When you combine Portugal's reliable 2-goal baseline with even modest attacking ambition from the Leopards, the math starts pointing clearly in one direction. As our second pick for this matchup, over 2.5 goals is our full game total pick. Quick commercial break. You know the deal. If you want to get our exclusive best sport picks to take things to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Go check it out. Commercial break over. Now back to the game. England versus Croatia. There's a reason this match carries more weight than your average World Cup group stage opener, and it has nothing to do with rankings or recent form charts. England and Croatia have been circling each other in tournaments for the better part of a decade now, and every time these two meet on a stage that matters, the script gets weird. Think about it. In 11 all-time meetings between these nations, England have taken 6 wins, Croatia have claimed 3, and 2 have ended in draws. But strip away the qualifiers and friendlies, zoom into the matches where both teams had everything on the line, and you start to see a pattern of tension, caution, and very tight margins. The 2018 World Cup semifinal still haunts every England supporter alive, where Croatia clawed back from a goal down and won 2-1 in extra time on their way to the final. 2 years later at Euro 2020, England got their revenge at Wembley, but only just, winning by a single goal in a match that never really opened up. That tightness isn't a coincidence, it's a reflection of how these two teams approach one another when it counts. Now here's what makes the draw so tempting for this particular Group L opener in Arlington. Thomas Tuchel's England are rightfully the favorites here. They win a perfect 8 wins from 8 in World Cup qualifying with 22 goals scored and 0, yes 0, conceded. That qualifying campaign was about as dominant as it gets. But let's pump the brakes for a second. Those 8 wins came against Albania, Latvia, Andorra, and Serbia, a group that didn't exactly make Tuchel's side sweat. When England stepped up in competition level during friendlies, the cracks showed. They drew 1-1 with Uruguay in March, fell 0-1 to Japan at Wembley just days later, and also lost 1-3 to Senegal last June. Under Tuchel's full tenure, England's record stands at 11 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses in 14 matches, and both of those losses came against quality opposition that actually pressed back. Croatia are exactly that kind of opponent. Zlatko Dalic's squad topped their own qualifying group with a record of 7 wins and 1 draw from 8 matches, conceding just 4 goals across the entire campaign. Andrej Kramaric led the way with 6 qualifying goals, and the defense, anchored by a now-healthy Josko Gvardiol back from a fractured shin, gave almost nothing away. And Croatia's tournament pedigree is not something you can just casually dismiss. This is a nation that reached the World Cup final in 2018 and then came back to finish 3rd in Qatar 4 years later. Dalic knows how to set up a team for knockout football, and he knows how to manage a group stage where the math matters. Both of these squads expect to advance from Group L, which also includes Ghana and Panama. That shared expectation actually incentivizes caution. Neither side needs to take a massive risk here because dropping 3 points in the opener against each other would be far more damaging than pocketing 1 point apiece. England's record in World Cup openers reinforces this. They've won 4, drawn 3, and lost just 1 across their last 8 tournament opening matches. Croatia's opener history is even more lopsided toward tight results, having won only 1 of their last 5 opening World Cup fixtures. When you layer in what we've already seen at the 2026 World Cup so far, the picture gets clearer. Through the first batch of group openers this tournament, the majority of results have been draws or one-goal margins, with matches like Brazil 1-1 Morocco, Belgium 1-1 Egypt, Qatar 1-1 Switzerland, Canada 1-1 Bosnia, and Saudi Arabia 1-1 Uruguay all pointing to the same theme of early tournament caution. Tuchel has never managed a World Cup match before, and first tournament coaches tend to err on the side of discipline. Dalic has managed 11 World Cup games, and his teams have gone to extra time multiple times, so he understands pacing better than almost anyone. This is a chess match between two nations who respect each other too much to overcommit early. As our first pick for this matchup, the draw is our full game side pick. So now let's talk about the scoreboard itself, and more specifically, whether there's enough firepower in this matchup to push the combined total above the projected number. Here's what stands out immediately. England's recent defensive profile is genuinely suffocating. Across qualifying, Tuchel's backline, featuring combinations of Mark Guehi, John Stones, and Ezri Konsa, did not allow a single goal in 8 matches. Not one. That's 720 minutes of competitive football without the ball touching the back of Jordan Pickford's net. And this wasn't just a qualifying quirk, it carried into the pre-World Cup window. England beat New Zealand 1-0 in Tampa and shut out Costa Rica 3-0 in Orlando, with the only concerning performance being the Senegal loss back in June 2025. Over England's last 6 matches heading into this game, the final combined scoreline stayed at 2 goals or fewer in 5 of those 6. The one exception was the 3-0 win over Costa Rica, a team ranked among the lowest at this tournament. When facing nations that actually showed up to compete, like Japan, Uruguay, and New Zealand, England couldn't break 2 combined goals. Both teams' scoring has been almost non-existent for England recently, failing to happen in 9 of their last 10 matches. That stat alone should make you sit up. On Croatia's side, the defensive numbers tell a similar story through qualifying. Just 4 goals conceded in 8 matches, and that included a scrappy 3-2 away win in Montenegro where the game got stretched late. Their pre-World Cup warm-ups offer another useful data point. Croatia lost 0-2 against Belgium in a match where Dominik Livakovic kept his side competitive for most of the 90 minutes before a stoppage time counter sealed it. Then against Slovenia, it took a Luka Modric second-half goal and a 90-minute Mario Pasalic strike to eke out a 2-1 win. Neither performance suggested a team that's going to suddenly start pouring forward against England's disciplined back line. Tuchel is a coach whose DNA has always leaned toward structure and defensive solidity. At Chelsea, at Paris Saint-Germain, and now with England, his teams defend in organized blocks and make opponents earn every single chance. Dalic's Croatia are built on midfield control and patience, not explosive transitions. Kovacic and Modric want to keep the ball, recycle possession, and pick their moments. That combination of styles, English rigidity against Croatian methodical possession, doesn't exactly scream 4 or 5 combined goals. Look at this tournament so far if you need more proof. Through the opening round of group matches, a clear majority of games have landed at 2 goals or fewer. Spain and Cape Verde played to a scoreless draw. Belgium and Egypt combined for just 2. Brazil and Morocco combined for 2. The trend toward low-scoring openers isn't random, it's structural. Teams are feeling each other out, managing effort across 3 group games in the Texas and Florida heat, and prioritizing not losing over chasing glory. A TNT Stadium's retractable roof and climate-controlled environment take the weather variable off the table, which means there's no wind-assisted long ball chaos or rain-soaked miscues to inflate the score artificially. This will be a controlled environment that rewards the more disciplined side. And discipline, as we've established, is the calling card of both teams walking into Jerry World on Wednesday afternoon. As our second pick for this matchup, under 2.5 goals is our full game total pick. Ghana versus Panama. Here's something that jumps out immediately when you look at this Group L opener between Ghana and Panama at BMO Field in Toronto. Neither team can afford to be reckless, and both of them know it. England and Croatia are lurking in the next 2 match days, which means this Wednesday night clash is genuinely the most winnable game on the schedule for both sides. And yet, paradoxically, that shared desperation might be exactly what cancels out any aggressive intent. Think about where Ghana is right now as a program. Carlos Queiroz was hired barely 2 months ago, in April, after the Ghana Football Association panicked and fired Otto Addo following a disastrous March window that included a 5-1 thrashing at the hands of Austria in Vienna. That's not a typo. 5 goals conceded to Austria by a team that breezed through CAF World Cup qualifying with a record of 8-1, finishing 6 points clear atop their group. There's a massive disconnect between the Ghana that dominated African qualifying and the Ghana that stumbled into this tournament on a run of 1 draw and 5 losses in their last 6 outings. The draw against Wales on June 2nd, a 1-1 result in Cardiff, was Queiroz's first and only match in charge before this game. 1 match, 1 training camp, 1 chance to install his ideas on a squad that has been ripped apart by absences. And those absences are staggering. Mohamed Kudus, who scored twice at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar and was arguably Ghana's most dynamic attacking player, is out of the entire tournament with a quadriceps injury. Mohamed Salisu, the center-back who would have anchored the defense, ruptured his ACL back in January and never had a chance. Then there's Thomas Partey, who's in the 26-man squad but physically cannot enter the country of Canada after a federal court upheld a visa denial related to ongoing criminal proceedings in the UK. His appeal was rejected the day before this match. That's your most experienced midfielder, your former vice-captain, a player with over 50 caps, sitting in Rhode Island watching on television. Ghana is going into a World Cup opener without 3 players who would have been automatic starters, and they're doing it under a manager who has had roughly 60 days to figure things out. Now, here's the thing about Queiroz. This is his 5th consecutive World Cup as a head coach, matching the all-time record held by Bora Milutinovic. He took Portugal to the round of 16 in 2010. He guided Iran through 3 straight tournaments in 2014, 2018, and 2022. If there's one thing that defines Queiroz's tournament DNA, it's structure over flair, discipline over creativity. His Iran teams were famously difficult to break down, compact and stubborn, designed to frustrate and snatch results. You don't hire a 73-year-old master of low blocks and defensive organization 2 months before a World Cup because you want to play like Brazil. You hire him because you want to survive. That's the vibe here. On the other side, Panama has come a long way from the team that got steamrolled 6-1 by England and 3-0 by Belgium at Russia 2018. Thomas Christiansen has been in charge since 2020, over 140 matches at the helm, and he's turned Los Canaleros into a legitimate CONCACAF force. They went undefeated through their World Cup qualifying campaign, finishing first in their 3rd round group with a record of 3-0. They reached the 2023 CONCACAF Gold Cup final. They made the 2025 Nations League final. They have an identity now, a disciplined 3-4-3 shape that converts into a 5-4-1 without the ball, designed to smother space and hit on the counter. Captain Anibal Godoy, 157 caps and counting for San Diego FC, marshals the midfield with the kind of veteran composure that younger squads simply can't replicate. But Panama has their own issues. Adalberto Carrasquilla, the creative heartbeat of their midfield and the 2023-2024 CONCACAF Men's Player of the Year, is dealing with a muscle issue picked up in the Liga MX final and is listed as doubtful. If he can't go, Panama loses the one player who connects the defense to the attack with any real incisiveness. And their pre-tournament form, while better than Ghana's, hasn't exactly been a statement of dominance. A 6-2 loss to Brazil on May 31st was ugly, even if Brazil was playing at home with a full-strength squad. They bounced back to beat the Dominican Republic 4-2 and drew Bosnia and Herzegovina 1-1, but those results tell you this is a team that's competitive, not overwhelming. So you've got 2 sides walking onto a neutral pitch in Toronto with similar problems, both punching below their weight in recent friendlies, both missing influential players, both staring down a group where England and Croatia are expected to gobble up the top spots. The incentive structure is fascinating. Ghana desperately needs points but can't open up because they lack the midfield controller who usually dictates tempo. Panama badly wants their first ever World Cup win but doesn't have the individual talent to simply impose their will on an opponent. This is a game that screams caution, 2 teams feeling each other out, playing not to lose more than playing to win. And when you add in the fact that these 2 nations have literally never played each other before, not once at any level of international competition, there's no familiarity, no template to follow, just mutual respect and mutual uncertainty. That kind of environment breeds hesitation, not heroics. As our first pick for this matchup, the draw is our full game side pick. Everything about the conditions surrounding this match points toward a stingy, tight affair. Start with Ghana's recent scoring output, because it's genuinely hard to believe a team with Antoine Semenyo and Iñaki Williams in the squad has been this toothless. In their last 7 outings dating back to November 2025, Ghana has been shut out 5 times. They lost to Japan 0-2, to South Korea 0-1, to South Africa 0-1, got demolished 1-5 by Austria, lost to Mexico 0-2, then managed just a single goal in a 1-1 draw with Wales. That is one goal in their last 4 games if you strip out the Austria anomaly, which itself was an Addo-era blowout that says more about organizational chaos than attacking ability. The creative engine that's supposed to generate chances, Kudus, isn't here. The midfielder who's supposed to progress the ball from deep, Party, can't cross the border. What you're left with is a team that has talent on the flanks but no proven mechanism to get the ball to those flanks in dangerous positions under Queiroz' brand new system. Semenyo had a terrific Premier League season, scoring 17 goals across his time at Bournemouth and Manchester City. Williams reached 500 career appearances for Athletic Club in March. Jordan Ayew brings 119 caps of experience to the captain's armband. There's quality here, nobody's arguing that. But international football isn't a club game, and talent without cohesion is just potential energy sitting in a beaker. Queiroz has had one friendly to implement his ideas. 1. Expecting this attack to suddenly click in a World Cup opener under those circumstances, with those absences, feels like a stretch. Panama's defensive structure is specifically built to frustrate exactly this kind of opponent. Christiansen's 3 center-back system, with Giovanni Ramos, Jose Cordoba, and Andres Andrade screening the back line, is designed to clog the center of the pitch and funnel play wide. Amir Murillo and Eric Davis operate as wingbacks who tuck in when Panama doesn't have the ball, creating a flat 5-man wall that's incredibly difficult to penetrate with crosses alone. Godoy sits in front of that wall, mopping up loose balls and disrupting any attempt to play through the middle. This isn't speculation about how they might play. This is how they've played for years under Christiansen, and it's how they went unbeaten through CONCACAF qualifying. On the flip side, Panama has their own ceiling issues in attack. Ismael Diaz won the 2025 Gold Cup Golden Boot with 6 goals in 4 matches, doubling the output of any other player in the tournament. Jose Fajardo provides a willing target up front, but the Gold Cup and the World Cup are different planets. Panama scored just 2 goals across their entire 2018 World Cup campaign, and while this squad is significantly more competitive, the jump in defensive quality they'll face from Ghana compared to, say, Guatemala or El Salvador is enormous. If Carrasquilla is limited or unavailable, the creative supply to those forwards dries up considerably. Carlos Harvey from Minnesota United is a solid option in central midfield, but he's not the type of player who's going to unlock a deep defensive block with a killer through ball. Then factor in the weather. BMO Field is an open-air stadium sitting on the shores of Lake Ontario, and the forecast for Wednesday evening calls for temperatures in the low to mid-60s Fahrenheit, cloudy skies, strengthening south winds with gusts potentially reaching 40 miles per hour, and rain expected to roll in during the match. A wet, windy pitch does not lend itself to free-flowing attacking football. It lends itself to scrappy, physical, error-prone contests where set pieces become the primary source of danger and ambitious passes die in the soggy grass. Both teams will know what's coming weather-wise, and both will adjust accordingly. World Cup openers are historically cautious events anyway. Teams don't want to concede early and chase the game in their first 90 minutes of the tournament. Queiroz's entire coaching philosophy is built on not conceding, and Christiansen's system is designed around the same principle from the other side of the tactical spectrum. You've got 2 defense-first coaches, depleted attacking options on both sides, deteriorating weather conditions, and the psychological weight of a match where a loss could functionally end either team's tournament before they even face the group favorites. This is a 1-goal, maybe 0 type of game, a cagey chess match between 2 sides content to take a point and live to fight another day. As our second pick for this matchup, under 2.5 goals is our full game total pick. Uzbekistan versus Colombia. Colombia's return to the World Cup stage feels long overdue, and there's a reason the odds makers aren't being shy about it. 2 years ago, this same group of players rode an unbeaten streak all the way to the 2024 Copa America final, where they fell to Argentina by a single goal in extra time, a match that could have gone either way. That wasn't a fluke run either. They dismantled Panama 5-0 in the quarterfinals and gutted out a 1-0 win over Uruguay in the semis while playing with 10 men for nearly an entire half. Nestor Lorenzo, who actually started as a defender for Argentina in the 1990 World Cup final against West Germany, has built something legitimate here. He dragged this squad through CONMEBOL qualifying, finishing third with a record of 7 wins, 7 draws, and 4 losses across 18 matches, which doesn't sound glamorous until you remember that's the same gauntlet that features Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay every window. The warm-up results heading into this tournament tell you everything about the mentality. A 3-1 dismantling of Costa Rica on June 1st, followed by a clean 2-0 victory over Jordan a week later, with John Arias of the Colombian squad bagging both goals in that second match. 7 wins in their last 10 overall. Meanwhile, Uzbekistan is stepping onto this stage for the very first time. There's an undeniable romance to their story, the first Central Asian nation to ever qualify for a World Cup, and Fabio Cannavaro, the 2006 World Cup winning captain and Ballon d'Or winner, coaching them into the unknown. But romance doesn't cover spreads. Cannavaro only took the job in October 2025, months after qualification was already secured under the previous coaching staff. He's had a handful of friendlies to install his ideas, and the results haven't exactly been encouraging. Uzbekistan failed to win any of their last 3 matches in regulation, falling 2-0 to Canada on June 1st, losing 2-1 to the Netherlands on June 8th, where they didn't even score until the 76th minute, and before that playing to a scoreless draw with Venezuela that they only technically won on penalty kicks. That's a rough trajectory heading into a Group K opener against a side loaded with attackers who've been thriving at Europe's highest levels all season. The roster disparity tells its own story. Colombia's striker Luis Suarez just finished the Liga Portugal season as the league's top scorer with 28 goals in 32 matches for Sporting CP, earning a spot among the most prolific forwards on the continent. The backbone of this Colombian midfield and defense features players from Crystal Palace, Galatasaray, Cagliari, and River Plate, all of them tested in competitive environments week after week. Uzbekistan's squad, outside of a couple notable exceptions, draws heavily from the Uzbek domestic league, clubs like Paktakar, Neftchi, and Nasaf. There's nothing wrong with those players, but the jump from the Uzbekistan Super League to a World Cup night at the Estadio Azteca is enormous. Cannavaro's likely formation is a 3-4-2-1, a system built to absorb pressure and hit on the counter, which tells you he knows his side can't go toe-to-toe. That defensive posture might keep things tight for stretches, but Colombia's quality in the final third is the kind that eventually picks locks. Honestly, when you weigh the form, the talent gap, the big game experience Colombia carries from that Copa America run, and the fact that Uzbekistan hasn't been able to beat anyone in regulation heading into this, the case for a comfortable margin is strong. As our first pick for this matchup, the Colombia -1.5 spread is our full game side pick. Now here's where things get interesting from a scoring perspective, and I want to talk about what happens when a debuting nation walks into one of the most famous stadiums on earth at 7,200 feet above sea level. The Estadio Azteca sits at roughly 2,200 meters of elevation in Mexico City, and there's a forecasted 65% chance of rain with temperatures hovering around 22 degrees Celsius and humidity at 61%. That altitude is the X factor nobody talks about enough. The thin air saps your legs, especially late in the second half, and when legs go, spacing gets loose. Defensive lines that held their shape at minute 55 start to stretch and break apart by minute 75. That's when goals come in bunches, and that's been the historical pattern at this venue in tournament play. Colombia has scored in each of their last 9 World Cup appearances, a streak stretching back through their 2018 and 2014 campaigns. They've put up at least 2 goals in 4 of their last 6 matches across all competitions, and they bagged 25 goals in their last 10 overall. That attacking output isn't just volume either, it's coming from multiple sources. John Arias scored both goals in the final pre-tournament friendly. Jorge Carrascal has been a creative spark off the bench. James Rodriguez, now 34 and playing for Minnesota United in MLS, won the Copa America Best Player Award in 2024 with 6 assists and a goal, and he's still the engine that makes Colombia's attack purr when everything clicks. On the other side, Uzbekistan isn't exactly a shut-the-door outfit. They've managed just 1 clean sheet across their last 6 fixtures. Their striker Eldor Shomurodov finished the Turkish Super League season as the joint top scorer with 22 goals in 34 matches for Istanbul Basaksehir, and his 22-year-old teammate Abbasbek Feyzaev scored key goals throughout AFC qualifying and was named the 2023 AFC Youth Player of the Year. Those two are capable of nicking one, especially against a Colombian backline that conceded 18 goals in 18 CONMEBOL qualifying matches, roughly one per game. The trends are aligned on both sides. The over has cashed in 5 of Colombia's last 6 matches, and it's hit in 4 of Uzbekistan's last 6. When you factor in the altitude draining both sets of legs, a debutant that's unlikely to park the bus for a full 90 because they'll need a result to have any hope in a group with Portugal waiting next, and a Colombian attack that smells blood in the water, you've got a recipe for a match where the ball finds the net more than a couple of times. As our second pick for this matchup, over 2.5 goals is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.